Good evening. My name is Rudy, and I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Rudy.
And I'm just going to read something real quick out of the big book, and then share my experience, strength, and hope. Uh, from page 55. Actually, we were fooling ourselves, for deep down in every man, woman, and child is the fundamental idea of God. It may be obscured by calamity, by pomp, by worship of other things, but in some form or other it is there. For faith in a power greater than ourselves and miraculous demonstrations of that power in human lives are facts as old as man himself. Finally, we saw that faith in some kind of God was part of our makeup, just as much as the feeling we have for a friend. Sometimes we have to search fearlessly, but he was there. He was as much a fact as we were. We found the great reality deep down within us. In the last analysis, it is only there that he may be found. It was so with us. And my sobriety date is August 22nd, 2021. I do work the steps. I do have a sponsor, Alvin S. I do have two sponsees. Currently, I'm on the amends process, and I love this program, and it's really saved my life, and it works. It really works. So I first, I'll just kind of go back about like what happened, what it was like, and what it's like now. Um, so my drinking really got out of control. Like in high school, I didn't do a lot of drinking, but when I did drink, I drank a lot. But it was kind of a rare thing. I did other drugs and such, but it was in like my early 20s. Things really got out of control. I started working at Jefferson Park Golf Course up the street, and I was working in the bar and grill, and I was bartending, and um, I was having a lot of cash tips on me, so I started going out at night a lot, and hanging out with other people in that industry, and but working at the golf course, you get access to free golf, and I was playing a lot of golf, and I got really good really fast at golf, and I was always been an athlete my whole life, and but just picked it up really quickly and started hanging around a lot of people that were playing golf and gambling a lot at golf, and I started like winning a lot of money, and it was just I got involved in this lifestyle of just like gambling, bartending, and just like uh, that whole environment was the golf course was there was a lot of gambling going on with like playing cards and just the whole lifestyle thing. So like even on my days off, I would go up there and just hang out and also I was a really good bowler too. So I would go bowling at night and gamble, and it was just this lifestyle of like probably from like my 4 or 5 years in my early 20s where I would just like have all this cash, where I was like, and then I would like gamble during the daytime, go bowling at night, and then I would do, like go out. The bowling alley would close. We'd go to like Imperial Lanes when they were open, and then like the bowling alley would close at 12. Then I would go to the bars, and it was just this cycle. And like all the money I had was like almost felt like play money a little bit because I would gamble and I would win. I would spend it all at the bars and then win it back the next day. It was just a kind of a lifestyle thing. But then my drinking got really out of control because like I would win money gambling, and then I would act like I won the Stanley Cup or something, or like and I would just be buying everybody drinks, or then if I would lose, then it was like the same thing. Like I could have lost more money, so it was just like all the money was like kind of like monopoly money. I would just get it back the next day, and it was insanity. But my drinking got so out of control that I would like black out a lot. I would fall. I would always have these things where I would just like I would go outside and like smoke a cigarette or smoke something, and then I would just like get lightheaded and just like fall on the ground. And like one time it was so bad that like I ended up in the ER like for like 6 hours, 6 stitches in my head. And it's like kind of like a PTSD thing. Like I just remember I would just be standing, and then the ground would just like be coming up on me like this, and it would happen like multiple occasions. Um, So that was just kind of like I started to know that there was a problem, and then others started to see that there was a problem in me. There was one guy I used to work with him at the golf course. He was a really good friend of mine, and he was in the program. He was the guy. He used to like drive around the driving range in the picker and like pick up all the balls in the driving range. And he was there was like a program at that workplace where they would hire people that were living in like some recovery buildings downtown in like Belltown area. So he didn't have much friends, but I was like one of his main friends, and we used to talk a lot. And he would see how I was struggling with alcoholism, but he was just kind of planting some seeds in my head, and I'm always kind of grateful for him. He's not with us anymore, but he was the first kind of introduction. He would just tell me about sobriety, and he never invited me to a meeting or anything, but he was kind of my first introduction. Um, so later on, I got a job. Now I'm like kind of like in my mid 20s. I met my wife. I got a job working at U.S. Bank because like my wife didn't want to. She like found me this job because she didn't want to be married to a guy that was just like living that lifestyle, you know. And so I got a job at U.S. Bank, and but I was still living that lifestyle a little bit. I was still golfing a lot. I was still gambling. I was still drinking, and and there was a guy that used to come in, and he was one of the clients at the bank. And because I would like, it was like banker's hours. I was going to work at like 10 a.m. So I can kind of go in hungover. I would stay out a lot at night. And there was a guy who used to come into the bank with a sobriety coin around his neck, like on like a gold chain necklace. And he used to talk to me about sobriety and he invited me to Cherry Hall, and he was like on the board of directors, and it was just he kind of like that's why I always say like AA really found me. Um, so I started going around. I went to Cherry Hall. I went to Empire Way a few times, which is now my home group. Um, and so I just kind of like started going around, but I couldn't stay sober. I would get like 8 months sobriety, 6 months sobriety, and like every time I would claim like it's like, all right, I'm gonna stay sober for the rest of my life. That was like my that the whole like self knowledge thing, and like you know it, it just didn't work. And by then my marriage is like falling apart, like just like Bill's story. It talks about like the tumultuous apartment with all the fighting, because I would just like I couldn't stay sober. And but finally, like before I met Alvin, I got a year and a half sobriety. Like that was like once I got my first year, that was like, which was a couple of years ago. I was like, I thought I like made it. Like I thought I was like in the clear now, and but that was a very dangerous thing for me. And um, the sponsor I was working with at the time kind of like didn't really like he took me through the process. We went through like essentially a whole round of steps, and then it was just kind of like you're a free bird now, like like and it so then I kept going to meetings though. That's the thing, like I was going to meetings, but I wasn't really working any steps anymore, and I started just like getting real on the fringes of this whole thing. And you know luckily, thank God, like Alvin was put in my life by a friend of mine. He's actually a friend I used to play golf with and gamble a lot. He's a caddy half the year at Augusta National in Augusta, and so he set me up with Alvin. I think he saw that I was kind of getting to be on the fringes of this thing, and so he set me. Him and Alvin were gonna do a workshop, a big book workshop together. So he invited me to join them, and so I did, and that was I had like about like 15 months sobriety at the time, so I thought I was locked in. I was just like, I'll do it, but it's like this is not gonna like keep me sober. I'm just gonna do this just to enhance my sobriety. But like that. So what ended up happening though, I started to have these like um, I see the timer too. I started to have these like what do they call it, like lurking notions of like I can handle it, like maybe I'm not a real alcoholic, that kind of thing. So like in the midst of meeting Alvin and starting this workshop together, I ended up relapsing last summer, and that's summertime was like when a lot of my relapses would come. For some reason, that was like my historical thing. Like I would get sober in the wintertime, and then like I'm born and raised in Seattle. Like when the sun comes out, it's just like I just lose my mind or something. Like something happens in me. But so last summer it was July 4th, and I've been like discussing it with my wife too. I had like premeditated this relapse where I'm like, I'm gonna drink. Like I think I can handle it. And she's like, I mean, she's not in the program, so she doesn't really have the understanding and wherewithal to like guide me to like the right answer. But I ended up relapsing on July 4th, and like the story goes with that, like I was at a barbecue with some friends that are not in the program. There was drugs, there was alcohol, and because I had started hanging around them for like a couple months, but I was the sober one, and I would think that I was going to be like the shining example of what sobriety looks like, and it's just, so ended up like, I was kind of like, well, if the right thing comes up, like I'll drink kind of thing. It was some twisted thinking, but like I'm at that barbecue and somebody pulls some like chilled, like really nice tequila out of a cooler, and like I told myself that I was like, well, maybe if I just drink tequila, because it's like 100% natural. It's a guy. Like, that was my insane thinking. So I ended up taking a shot. I'm like the only one like that's like getting drunk at that barbecue. Like everybody else is like keeping it pretty chill. And it was just nothing like I thought it would be in my head. Like I thought it was gonna be like a music video, and it was just gonna be like so much fun, and the thing that ended up happening was like after like the bar, it maybe lasted like a couple hours of barbecue, and then everyone's like, all right, we're going home, and I'm like, I thought we're just getting started here, like and then the thing that really like kind of spiraled me, they're like, and I thought I was gonna be like, everyone was gonna give me like respect, kind of like for like drink. It was just twisted thinking, but then one of my friends goes, at the barbecue they pile up all the garbage in like a garbage bag, big, there's a lot of people there, so there's a lot of garbage, and then they go, I'm the one standing there, and I'm like half drunk by now, and everyone's going home, and they said, all right, Rudy, you're like, why don't you get the trash? You get the trash. So now I'm half drunk, and now I'm the guy that is like has to get the trash. And for some reason that like spiraled me out of control. So I'm like, I'm just gonna get like real drunk now, and the two things that I told myself I wasn't gonna do if I did drink was like feeling that fear might keep me in the safety net or something, like where I told myself I wasn't gonna drive drunk, and I wasn't gonna do any drugs. I wasn't gonna do any cocaine, because when I drink, I like to do drugs. I did both those things very quickly, because those are the two things I could lose my job over. I work in transit, and I told myself that my job is going to keep me safe from drinking out of control. But it just didn't work like that at all. Luckily, thank God, I didn't lose my job over this course of this relapse. I got back involved with the process. I got back involved with Alvin. I started working steps, and it's just been magical ever since. Like I just did a really big fifth step with Alvin. I had like 50 pages on this inventory written. It took like 6 hours, and I did like the hour-long meditation afterwards. And it was just like a spiritual experience that I can't really put it into words. But I just feel very, centered. I do my 10 and 11 every day, not perfectly, but I do every morning. I wake up and I do Upon Awakening. Every night I do a nightly review, and I try to practice 10-step throughout my day. So I see the timer. I think that's all I got. Thank you for letting me share.
Thanks, Rudy.